Hello, my name's Washboardjim with a sneaky snake trading strategy where I talk about chart patterns, moving averages, and being in the now. And we're getting ready to talk about the SPY, the SPX, the IWM, the QQQ with Washboardjim. So let's go ahead and erase this off. I'm going to clear that up. And this is what we ended up with. And I talked about this last week in a video and nailed it to a T, hitting that 21 EMA. But we had to hold the 9 and we just couldn't do it. Now, are we in for more drama? That depends. We got two different things going on here. We got an inverse head and shoulders, and we also have us landing on that 21 EMA, which is the white line. So I'm going to draw these up a little bit and try to show you where I think if we did start to pull back a little bit more, where the bottom line support would be. And let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to get a price line or a trend line, go from that wick. See how we hit the 21 here previously? And I'm going to hit that 21 right there. So that could be your lowest possible support right around 520 to hold. And if that doesn't hold, we'll drop down here and be up around that $500 level, which I think would be a beautiful pullback. For right now, though, we could bounce off the 21. And that's the 21 EMA, and that's what we could pull down a little bit more and then start to rebound next week and come back up to the 9. So I'm going to draw two price lines in here where I think support will be, and where the price on both the 9 and the 21 EMA. So the 9's right here, and we'll just go ahead and put a 548 even stroke right there. Then on the 21, no lower than that 537.34. Maybe a little bit lower, but not much. Now, if we can play that channel into next week, we had such a big flush last week. It was one of the worst weeks in 18 months. It took 3 weeks to get this done. And we know a little bit lower, but that took 3 weeks. This only took 1. So that could have been your big flush. And then we start to bounce back up, or she pulls on back and breaks below that 21. So we're going to find out Monday if it can hold 537.34 and maybe go back to 548 by the end of the week. Now, I'm literally, the jobs report came out Friday. Some people thought they were going to find a little good out of it. I don't find nothing good out of the jobs report anymore because we've been lied to for over a year about the numbers on the jobs. They were off 900,000 once they summed it all up, so that wasn't too good. And I think a lot of these numbers that we're getting are bloated, but we have to go by them. Wall Street goes by them, and that's how they trade their trades. They're fundamental traders. I'm a chartist artist. This is my strategy. I'm not a fundamental trader. So we've got the 9 and we've got the 21. I'm going to take this to the yearly time frame and look at it on the yearly. The yearly's at a pretty good solid support right there too. We did kind of drop below that gap. I talked about we did hit the gap. So I talked about this gap last week, and I want to draw a little shadow box in here. I said we could pull back to the top of that gap. And that's exactly what we did, plus some, which is telling me that we could drop on down and hit that bottom line support at 537 and start to bounce back up to the upside. And I'm going to use these moving averages as resistance levels. Mind you, this is on the daily. So we'd have like the 63, and I'm going to put a price line in there. Right around 544.37. So that's going to be one of your solid supports. If we start to bounce up, that'll be a pivot point inside of that channel. So this is how I see it. If we don't hold the 537.34 this coming week and bounce back to the 21, bounce back to the 63 EMA, or if we do not hold it, we could drop down more, and then we've got a little support level right down here at 532.97 for next week, and another gap. So that'll be your second gap down. And I'm going to change that a different color. That'll be your second gap support, but we need to hold this first one. If we can hold that, we'll be fine, because that'll be an inverse head and shoulders. You got your head, and you got your right shoulder, left shoulder, and your right shoulder. So we'll just have to see what happens next week. Solid support for this coming week will be 537.34. If we don't hold it, it'll be another $4.50 drop to 533. We'll round it up to 533. With a resistance to break right around 544.50. And then the SPX. I traded this mostly last week. I got stuck in it a couple times, but I was able to. I did get one red trade out of it last week, but all the rest of them were very, very profitable. I did what you call cost average down. So that's the same kind of thing here. We did break below that. Now this is on the yearly, so let's go back to the weekly. On the weekly, the 21 EMA kind of flattened out a little bit, and that's your support level. And we're going to go ahead and draw that in. That price is right around 538.793, the 21 EMA. Then you got the 9. We're going to play it the same kind of way. We're going to put the 9 resistance there, right around 549138. Now, I'm looking in here. So we're going to take this now. This is same circumstance. If we don't hold the 21, we could easily pop down and hit these bottom two candles right down here. And I'm thinking the next support would be around 53.42. So we'll take it to the daily. And we'll use that resistance level right here. Same thing. We could have us a head and shoulders if it pulls back to the right off the body of that candle on the weekly. And that's a real solid support. I like that support right there. So if we do have one more week of redness at 532.42, 53.42.81 is solid support. But as we go right now into next week, it'll be 53.87.93, the 21 EMA on the weekly to hold. If not, we'll go ahead and bounce up to resistance level of that 63 EMA, and that's right around 54.56.45. So that'd be about a 50-cent bounce, $50 bounce. And that's going to be right there at the 54.56.42 level. Support 53.87.93. Resistance to break will be that 63 EMA at 54.56.42. And we nailed it last week. And I'm going to put the link of last week's video in the bottom if you want to, in the content, if you want to watch it. So I'll be watching both of them closely. Those are my two main trades until the election is over. I still think we could have more volatility, but we'll just see how it goes into the election. September and August are the worst months of the year into an election year. So I expect some good pullbacks. We've had really extremely high runs in a lot of these stocks. AIs, they're not as bullish on AI as they've been. I'm still very bullish on AI, and I'll take the dips on all them trades. Nailed the Tesla pullback yesterday. I nailed the NVIDIA one. So we're going to look at the IWM next. I'll clean it up. Go to the weekly time frame. Notice I'm using the weekly, the yearly, and that's it. I might go to the hour when I come in here on Monday and start charting it up with the hour. So the same thing happened here. We did breach below the 21 this time, which is not as promising as the other two were, the SPY and the SPX. So this thing could easily pull back to the bodies of these candles right here and find support come Monday. And we're going to make sure we get the price line in there, and that support will be right there, a little bit lower. Let's drop it a little bit lower. Somewhere right in there at 206.45. So if that doesn't hold, that's only a $1.40 dip. We had a big, huge knife on this thing too. It could drop down here and hit this 63. That'll be your next support to take this trade. So I'm going to put a price line in there, and that's a pretty good drop. That's not much. I mean, it's $8, and the one we had last week was 19 to 7. So that was a huge sell-off last week. So that's on the, and the resistance level will be again to try to break that 9 at 212.52. So we're just going to go straight to the daily. And those are your three supports. If it doesn't hold, and then you got the 63 right here. So we'll put a price line right there on the 63. Right around 210, 295. So if we don't hold the 206.45, we can easily drop down to the 200 EMA right here. And I'm going to put a price line right there. Now we do have a gap. We do have a gap right here. And that support on that gap on the daily would be right there. And that's where we stopped at. So this stock could easily turn around Monday. We've got possibilities of a couple green days next week if the market reacts to the huge drop we had on last week. I call them flush outs. I just call them straight flush outs, but we're into the election again. September and August are the worst months of the year. So lowest support, we really want this to hold and try to keep this gap. If it doesn't hold that gap, we could drop all the way back down to this bottom candle here for support, and that's right off the 200 EMA. So resist support level to hold the gap at 207.87. If we don't hold it, we'll drop to the next level of 206.45. If that doesn't hold, then we got another stop right there at 205, 204 something. Resistance to break next week will definitely be that 63 at 210.95, 211, somewhere around the 210. Now you got to round these up a little bit. I've been pretty precise, almost to the penny on these, but give yourself a little lead room just in case we do start to bounce up and people want to start taking profit on such a hard sell-off that we had last week. And then so I'm going to go over that one more time. We got the gap support at 207.87. If it doesn't hold, we'll drop down to these other three supports. If it holds, we'll run up to the 63 next week and find some balance, and then have another week, and then another week back up to the upside. I'm very bearish in the market right now, but I'm also bullish. I'm playing the dips on these great stocks that I've been following for almost 3 years in here, live. And I'll go through a run-in on some of them. We've got the QQQ. And we're going to clean this up. Same thing could happen here. Now, we didn't find any major support. Oh, let's go to the weekly. Got to go that weekly first. So we did breach the 21 on the weekly, and we could easily come down and hit this triple bottom here. I call this the 1-2-3 strategy. If you've been trading with me, you know what I mean. So we'll just take and run that right there, and that 50 SMA would be a solid support if we did decide to pull back more on this stock, and that's right around, and we're going to put that price line in here. We got support right there. Definitely we have support right there off this head and shoulders, and we stopped right there. Or we could pull down and hit this 50 SMA. And that's a real solid support. I'd say if we had one more red week, I'd be wanting to load the boat on a lot of your main tickers, and I'm going to go through some of them right now. We're going to take this to the yearly. Resistance to break, if we do bounce back up, will be this 460 area, 459, 460 area at the 21 EMA. We did fail that 21, so we're in limbo right now, but we have an inverse head and shoulders right here that could hold us up. I talked about these 3 black crows, the Japan deal, and then we had 3 white soldiers. And after 3 white soldiers, you usually get a sell-off with an inverted hammer. So let's go ahead and look at the daily. Same thing's going on here. We dropped below the gap, which we could still have a solid support off this inverse head and shoulders, or we drop down and hit the 200 and would be a very strong buy off the 200 SMA. I'm going to go ahead and push this alert up here. I kind of like that spot right there a lot. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my price line in there. It's right around 441.57, 441.31. Let's bring it up just a little bit. So I'll be alerted to the stock. And that's right around 442.39 for a support level. Now we do have a gap here, a huge gap. So if it doesn't hold that top of that gap, she can drop down and hit that 200. I really like that 200 sitting right there. That's the SMA and that's the EMA. I just added the EMA to the chart, so I'm starting to get used to it, and I like the EMA a lot, so I might be using it a lot more, but I still use that SMA for a daily scalper. So now we're going to go through a couple stocks here that I like a lot. We're going to go with the percentage loser last week was Tesla. We had a real nice bounce on this stock. We're going to go up here on the 1 hour time frame, on the 20-day. I changed my time frames now. We have an inverse head and shoulders right here. We could easily bounce up and start to rebounce back up to the 9 and the 200, the 9 EMA and the 200 SMA. Like I said, I use moving averages for entries and exits, and I'm usually pretty accurate with it. Like you could see here, the 200 has been acting like a pivot point here on the 1 hour time frame, and that means we could easily bounce up and hit that 200 this coming week on Tesla, and that's right around 215 something. Now there's a lot of money flow in this. Miss Vegas told me there's a lot of money flow going on here with Tesla, and I got out of here at the double top on Friday, and then I went ahead and bought the put and sold it on down. I didn't take it all the way down, but this was a real hard sell-off of about 20 bucks. So I think that was a big enough flush to hold this up. The only problem I have right now is we went below that 1, 2, 3 support level, and I'm going to draw a price line off this pattern right here. So that runs right into the 9, and that could be a hard resistance to break next week. And if we break it, I think we're going to bounce up, but we could easily pull back to 207.90 and find a solid support. It'll be that right shoulder touch one more time, boom, and then she bounces on up and starts to get back to this upper level right around the 220 area for next week. Now there's probably people stuck in this trade and people adding on to this trade. I'm bullish, but I'm not as bullish as I've been in the past. Definitely bullish now, though. I mean, we've coming back. We've been kind of slaughtered with the news and the media and everything else on Elon. You know, he comrade with Donald Trump right now, which I think's groovy. and he's going to be appointed to monitor some of this spending that the government does, out of waste controlled spending that just gets, we're too far in debt. So he wants to work on that debt. The only way to do it is to know where the numbers are. And that's what he's going to hire Elon for. I think Trump's a very smart businessman, and I'm going to be voting for the guy. So Tesla, solid support at 207.90. Resistance to break will be right here, right around 213.32, and bring it up to the 9, and then maybe the 200 on the 1 hour time frame. SMCI, this has had real bad news. I called out this 381.35 when the news came out, and I started being bearish on it at 381.35, and we hit 382.80. So this thing still got the bad news. The numbers have been fudged, like I think a lot of numbers have been fudged this year. So I'm technically trading these stocks, not fundamentally trading them. So 381.35 to hold. I think we can get a nice little day trade scalp out of this one too, and run it back up and break these 3 or 4 moving averages back up to the 63, which has some solid resistance right there at right around 422. But we're going to keep this on a close eye on SMCI. Carvana's had a pretty good sell-off, real hard sell-off. Now I think we're at a bottom support on this one too. We got an inverse head and shoulders. That support level at 132.44 could run this stock back up and hit these 3 moving averages again and find some resistance right there at 139. NVIDIA, I love this stock. We definitely pulled back to my box of support level that I did in that video a while back. You go back and watch my NVIDIA video. I nailed this to the penny. So we've had a hard sell-off here in the last couple of weeks. We could find support at 102.05, or we fall a little bit down more. I'm liking this stock, but the negativity on this stock is just horrible. And it's not right. It's not right. It's not right. We definitely have, I mean, they're making a ton of money just because they're off just a little bit by the analysts, but they were wanting it to be off a little bit, in their opinion, and them numbers could have been fudged. Them numbers could have been fudged. So 102.05 is the gap, and if that doesn't hold the gap, we could easily fall back to 96.90, with that $100 bill being an imaginary support level. If we hold the gap, we can run back up, and we'll go back to that 1 hour time frame and try to make it back up here to 107.96 and break that resistance. But I've got 109.40 as a solid support, solid resistance. We need to hold the 102 area. If we don't, we'll see $100, and then we'll see at 96.70. I'm real bullish on on NVIDIA. Very bullish on this stock. I can't tell you how bullish I am on this stock. I'm very bullish on this stock. I called the bubble when we were at the top at 141. We've dropped $40, so that's a 30% pullback. We could be at a solid support. So if it doesn't hold, it'll be that 96.90, and I'll be getting, or even sooner, drop pivot point in there or something. Yeah, there's your pivot point right there. A little bit right around $100. So that $100 is definitely solid. If it doesn't hold it, then 96.90, and I'm going to load the boat at that area. I've heard 90, I've heard 94, I've heard 75, and I think 75 is way overdone. The stocks ran up tremendously. Don't take me wrong. If you look at the weekly time frame on this, $10 all the way up to 140, that's a 1,400% increase in less than a year and a half, 2 years, almost 2 years. So you really got to be smart about this. I think they're all overpriced. I really do. I think we could go into a bigger pullback into the next couple of months, but I'm going to be scalping this trade and day trading it. I'm not going to swing it. I'm not going to swing nothing unless we have a real good sell-off. That's just the way it is. We've had such a big run in this AI sector. So the next one we're going to talk about, let's go back over this here on the 1 hour. We can hold that 102.05, break it, and run on up, maybe hit that 107 area, 107.81, and then long to 109, 140. And then if it starts to get some good news or something comes out, we got a huge resistance level right around the 115.85. I got a solid red line on that for a purpose. And Google's been in some shit. We got Amazon. Amazon also had a big old pullback. All my good tickers are on here. Meta, we're at 500. That could be a solid support with a double bottom. So it's got to break 502.36 to run up to the next level. And that'd be the 21 if we start to curve up. And then long back up here to the 63 EMA. And that's at right around 511. JP Morgan banks are, I think, are going to pull back with the interest rate cuts if they happen. I think they're also waiting for the interest rate. So we got September, we got the 16th. They're going to make a decision. That could also reverse the market to the upside. So keep a good eye on Pow. And I think that's all I'm going to bring you right now. CrowdStrike was another one that took a big knife. It had earnings, or they loved the earnings, but it did pull back. I can't make any sense out of this, but a market correction, a big flush. Maybe this coming week we could have some green days and then maybe a couple pullbacks. I'd still be very careful of the volatility that you're going to have each day. I'd definitely be on the scalping, day trading mode. I'm scalping. I mean, I'm nailing these scalps. If you just look what happened Friday on SPY or on SPX. In fact, I'll pull it up all week long. Five-day, 1 minute. It was nothing but a downturn. Now, every day we kind of broke out a little bit. We broke out a little bit, and we found resistance levels. We broke out a little bit, but we ended up pulling back every single day. Every single day. Every single day, every single day. So that was a good flush, a big flush, big flush. So if this thing breaks out tomorrow and doesn't break this triple top, or Monday, I'm going to take the body of that candle. Actually, yeah, I'll take the body of that candle and run it to the body of that candle. And that'll be your resistance level right there for Monday morning, if we decide to bounce on up. And if we break that, then you got a double top right here. Then you got a triple top. And that's how I'd look at that. We got, see how this pulled back right here, that found that resistance. So these are on the minute time frame. That's how I trade these stocks at open. I got in this stock and got stuck. And then I had to do a little work. Scalp this trade right here. And then I turned around and got back in it on double bottom here, and then had to add on. By the end of the day, it was one of the biggest days that I've had all year. And that's the SPX. So that's what I'm trying to explain. The SPY the same way. We're going to change this to the 5 minute. Big, huge sell-off on the SPY. Then that Friday flush came. I was ready for it. I mean, I was telling everybody I'm bearish. I did a video on it stating why I'm bearish. And I said we'd pull back and hit that 21, and that's exactly what we did. So I'm very impressed with my call last week. I just need to learn how to stick to my ideas. We pulled back and hit that 21, hit the top of that gap. It was perfect. My videos are sometimes better than watching me day trade in a day because I get excited and want to scout. But I'm not swinging to anything. I'm not going to get caught in anything. I'm just not going to do it until I can wait 2 months. I can wait until Pow Pow comes out and gives a speech before I start swinging stocks. This is the perfect time for me to be at my best because I've been practicing this knife catching for 20 years and I just know how to do it. I know what to look for. Basically, you know, sometimes I get stuck. I call them wrong, but I add on. Usually hits my final support. I use a mental stop instead of a physical stop because I've been in these trades so many times and I get it gets me out of the trade and then all of a sudden it backs back up, runs back up. And I give Miss Vegas all the credit for that because she took her 5 years to kind of convince me to hold on to the stocks. But I didn't have a big account. I was always using the challenge account, trying to teach people how to trade. And, you know, you want to cut them losses if you have a small account. You don't have the money to cost average down. So I'll be watching the SPY. I'll be watching all these tickers. I'm kind of going to see what the reaction is going to be Monday. I think we can have a couple green days and kind of gain a little bit of trust back into that big, huge sell-off we had last week. So this is a sneaky snake trading strategy. I'm Washboard Jim, and I talk about chart patterns, moving averages, and being in the now.